Welcome to Rom on Holiday. Today we're sharing everything we did during our 3-day trip to Lisbon. Over a long and rainy weekend in February, we visited the best sights the Portuguese capital has to offer. So, let's hand it over to Rob at the airport.
Okay, we've just arrived in Lisbon and we're actually heading to Sintra tonight, so we won't be starting the Lisbon video for a couple of days. But while we're here, we've bought our Lisboa cards. Each of these really good. You can choose whether it's 24 hours, 48 hours or 72 hours. We're 3 days in Lisbon, so 72 hours. Cost us about £40 odd each, but the good thing about it covers all the transport in the Lisbon area, the trams, the buses, the boats, everything, and you get entrance into lots of Lisbon attractions. We're going to show you those on the video. So, Lisboa card.
We actually spent our first night in Portugal in Sintra, which we'll be covering in a video coming on the channel soon. After a rainy day touring Sintra, we got an Uber back to Lisbon and checked into our hotel, the Hotel Santa Justa. We were tired, so we didn't do any sightseeing, but we did finish the night with a nice meal at Dama e Vagabundo. Good morning, it's our first full day in Lisbon, and after getting rained on in Sintra yesterday, we're hoping for a bit of a drier day. The outlook is still a bit rainy, but we're going to try and dodge the rain, see as many sights as we can in Lisbon today. And we're starting off on the 15 tram, goes from the centre to Belém, just passing the Rui Augusta Arch here. Well, that was the plan anyway. Unfortunately, our tram broke down at the next stop, so we had to get an Uber over to Belém for our first stop of the day, the Belém Tower.
If you have the Lisbon card to get in the Belém Tower, don't go straight to the Belém Tower, they won't let you in. Not to validate your tickets here in the middle of the garden. This is our reward for going around Lisbon in all the wind and rain. We've got it to ourselves, the Tower of Belém. There are lots of little nooks and crannies to explore, but be careful you don't have too much breakfast before squeezing in. Inside the Belém Tower there's a spiral staircase and there's a note on the outside that says 93 steps. Now, don't worry about that, it's only 22 steps to get to the first platform and get a really good view there across the Tagus, so definitely worth going up the 22 steps.
We only spent half an hour in the Belém Tower, but it's definitely worth visiting. It's one of the most popular attractions in Lisbon, and the tower's position offers stunning views over the water. Our next stop in Belém was just a short walk around the marina.
We're still in the Belém area. This is the Monument of the Discoveries, a fabulous monument that looks out over the Tagus River. Now, it was opened in 1958. The significance of the position of the monument is this is where the ships used to leave and trade with India and the Orient. So this monument celebrates the Portuguese age of exploration in those times.
The Monument of the Discoveries was another highlight of the trip for me. I love looking at the detailed sculptures of the explorers on the side of the structure and enjoying the views over the river, the 25th of April Bridge and the Cristo Ray.
So walking from the Monument of the Discoveries across to the Gonas Monastery, thankfully there's an underpass because there's a train travelling away.
Our final stop in Belém was the Gonas Monastery. We arrived outside the monastery just in time to avoid a rain shower and headed swiftly into the church section of the building. This part of the monastery is free to visit and a must if you like architecture. Still trying to dodge the rain, we got into the queue on the right side of the building to visit the main area of the monastery.
This is inside the Gonas Monastery, which is a really nice courtyard. I don't know what the cleaners are doing. I think they're emptying the pool. I think there's a bit much rainwater in. But it's a great view of the inside of the cloister, 2 levels, really, and the sun's actually come out, so we're actually getting a nice stonework as well. So that was the Gonas Monastery. You can get in with your Lisboa card, or if you haven't got the Lisboa card, it's going to cost you €12. If you've got the Lisboa card, just get in the queue there, tap it on the machine when you go in, you know, it's the queue on the left hand side. The queue on the right, you can get in a chapel absolutely free, you don't need a ticket of any kind. Inside it's really nice, limestone coloured cloister. You can walk around and see the tower. Very good. Whether it's worth €12, it seems expensive for me for what you get, but it is a beautiful building.
After our morning tram debacle, we decided to catch the bus back to the centre to visit Lisbon's main square, the Praça do Commercio.
This is the Praça do Commercio. You look out one way, it's the River Tagus, and behind me the Rui Augusta Arch. It's one of the most important monuments in Lisbon. It was built in to commemorate the reconstruction of the city after the 1755 earthquake.
Our initial plan was to head back to the hotel for a rest, but after checking the forecast for the rest of our trip, we decided to make the most of the relatively sunny weather and carry on our tour of Lisbon's historic centre. Our next stop was Lisbon Cathedral, and to get there we decided to take the Elevador de Sé to avoid walking up a steep hill.
This is the Elevador de Sé, and of course Lisbon is a very hilly city, but you're helped out by there are lots of elevators here and there. So this one takes us from the ground level, which is more or less sea level, up to the cathedral. This is Lisbon Cathedral. Now, it's really impressive on the outside. I love the stonework. It's kind of like a combination of church and castle. When you get in there, it's €5 to get in, or you've got the Lisboa card. It's 20% off, so $3.75 each. Inside, it's nice. There are some really nice stained glass windows, but it's basically like a church. So it's not as spectacular as some of the cathedrals you might see in Italy or Spain, but for the low cost, it's definitely worth seeing. But I think, like a lot of cathedrals, the beauty is really on the outside.
Our final stop of the day was the highest point in Lisbon's Old Town, the Castelo de São Jorge. From outside the cathedral, we took the 737 bus up to the castle entrance, once again avoiding a long walk uphill. Normally, we pre-booked tickets for attractions before our trip, but because we mainly planned to use the Lisboa card, we didn't do this for our trip to Lisbon. However, the castle is not included on the card, and the queue to buy tickets can get very long. Luckily, the weather seemed to have put some people off, as the queue was only about 15 minutes long at 3 PM. So it wasn't long before we were inside and ready to explore, starting with the amazing viewpoint.
As soon as you step into the Castelo São Jorge, this is the view you get. Absolutely fabulous across the Tagus River. See all the places we've been today, the Praça Commercio, across to the bridge, and Cristo Ray. Absolutely wonderful.
After marvelling at the view, we entered the main fortress. Although there is not an inside as such, the walls are mainly intact, meaning you can walk along them and explore the castle's architecture up close.
Before coming to Lisbon, I watched one video that said the Castelo São Jorge was overrated or overpriced, and it was just an expensive viewpoint. Well, first of all, I agree, it is one of the best views in Lisbon. It's absolutely incredible, the views you get over the river and the city and all the monuments. It's a fabulous view. But in terms of the castle itself, I think it's pretty good because, you know, you get to walk along the walls. There are plenty of towers that you can make your way up. You get fantastic views in multiple directions, and you can walk all along the battlements, so it's really good. €15 entry. If you're between, I think it's 13 and 25, you get half price, $7.50. I think it's pretty good value.
After spending around an hour in the castle, we took the bus back to the centre and headed off to our hotel for a rest. A few hours later, it was time to board the metro and head out to the Expo 98 area, several miles east of the historic centre.
This evening we've come to the north end of Lisbon, and this is the area where the World's Fair Expo 98 was held. There's an aquarium here. But one thing I really wanted to see here is the magnificent Vasco da Gama Bridge, named after the famous 15th century Portuguese explorer. And you can see the bridge there, the lights. It goes all the way across the River Tagus, and it's 7 miles long, over 7 miles long, making it the second longest bridge in Europe and the longest bridge in the European Union. It's a magnificent feat of engineering, opened in 1998, and it means people coming from the north of Portugal to the south don't have to travel into Lisbon city centre and use the 25th of April bridge. They can come out the wider part of the Tagus here and drive over it. It looks fantastic at night. It goes all the way across the water, obviously.
We finished off a very busy and successful Friday in Lisbon with a wonderful meal at La Tagliatella restaurant. If you're in the Expo 98 area, I highly recommend this restaurant. The food was delicious and the service was excellent throughout our meal. We woke up bright and early on Saturday to check off a few attractions in the historic town before heading over to Cristo Rei. First, we wanted to ride the Santa Justa lift. However, for the second day in a row, it was closed early in the morning. So after a quick pit stop for breakfast, we walked to Praça Martim Moniz to board the historic 28 tram. We're on Lisbon's historic 28 tram. Now if you want to get a seat on this, you really have to get on at the start, which is at the Praça Martim Moniz. You could be lucky if people get on and off the route, but it's busy straight away. But the trams are every 9 or 10 minutes, so if you get here, you probably get a seat. One of the reasons why the number 28 tram is so popular, of course, is it passes so many great points of interest. Now, Lisbon is full of fantastic viewpoints, and one of the places the tram stops is the Miradora San Luisa. To be honest, you can't really see any of the main attractions from this Mirador, but the gardens themselves are nice to explore. To save time, we ordered an Uber straight to the Mirador to take us over to the Cristo Rei. You may be wondering why we took an Uber when we had access to free public transport. Well, one of my favourite monuments in Lisbon was the 25th of April suspension bridge. And if you get an Uber over to Cristo Rei, you get to drive over the bridge and see it up close. And this was an opportunity that I simply couldn't miss. Finally, some sun in Lisbon we're going to enjoy today, and we've decided to start the day by seeing one of the top attractions in Lisbon, the Cristo Rei. You can see it behind me, Christ the Redeemer, well, Christ the King it's called here, based on the Christ the Redeemer statue, of course, the famous one in Rio de Janeiro. Now, top tip, we've got the Lisboa cards which would entitle us to a ferry across the Tagus and then a bus that can bring us up here, but we paid just €12, that's right, €12 from the centre of Lisbon to get an Uber and drive across the magnificent 25th of April suspension bridge. You got fantastic views across the river. The bridge itself is magnificent. Of course, you can see the Cristo Rei as you're coming across here, and we've got here before it opens. It opens at 10 o'clock. We're about half an hour early, but it's good to be one of the first here. And would you believe the tickets for this place are €5 each? That's it, €5. You can ride an elevator up the statue, and we're going to get the best view in Lisbon. After buying our tickets for Cristo Rei, we boarded the lift and then walked up the remaining 74 steps to reach the upper observation deck. So we've now gone up the elevator, take an elevator 3 floors, then you have to walk 74 steps to get onto this magnificent viewing platform. And what a view! I've seen some views on my travels, but this takes the biscuit. You can see the whole of the Tagus River, the suspension bridge, the Gonas Monastery, Belém Tower, the Pantheon Commercio in the background. It's such a fantastic view, and of course the main thing, the Cristo Rei behind us. It's 28 metres tall, the actual Christ statue. The height, including the base and the statue, is 110 metres. It's absolutely mind-blowing. For €8 each, this is fabulous value as well. If you come to Lisbon, do not miss this. Now, as if going to see the Cristo Rei statue itself and climbing it wasn't enough, you have this fantastic view over the River Tagus. Watch out for the weather, because we've been here, we've had rain passing through, and now it's sunny again. You can see the 25th of April suspension bridge behind me there. If you look out to the west, you can see the Atlantic Ocean, you can see all the famous monuments in Belém down there. If you look to the east, you can see Lisbon, the Praça Commercio, and you can see the Vasco da Gama Ridge all the way down there. It is 100% the best view I've seen. Just to reiterate, the €8 that you pay is for the elevator to take you up to the top of the statue. The whole Sanctuary of Christ the King area is free to enter, so you can get this magnificent view for free if you don't want to go up there, if you don't want to pay or you don't like heights. Our whole trip out to the Cristo Rei only took just over 2 hours, but in my opinion, it's an absolute must on any trip to Lisbon. After a quick Uber ride back over the bridge, we arrived at our next stop of the day, the Pillar 7 experience. Now, one of the advantages of using Uber is we come all the way from the Cristo Rei straight here to Pillar 7. It cost us €12, which I think is pretty good for 4 people. Now, Pillar 7 is included on the Lisboa card, and it's a unique experience. You get to see the 25th of April suspension bridge really close up. Let's go and see what it's like. I've not seen many people mention the Pillar 7 experience on their videos of Lisbon, but I would highly recommend it. I'm afraid of heights, so I did find it a little daunting to step out into the glass box, but once I did, I was greeted with an amazing view of the bridge and of Belém to the right.
I don't know why, but I feel like I want to put my feet on the metal bit round the outside. You can hear the vehicles as they're going across the bridge. It's making it, well, probably hear it. The maximum visit time at the top of the bridge here in the Pillar 7 experience is 10 minutes. Probably enough if you just want to stand about and admire the view in the glass cube. But it's definitely worth doing. We'll put the full price, if you haven't got the Lisboa card, on the screen. As I say, it is included in the Lisboa card. That's another win.
The one issue with the Pillar 7 experience is that it is cut off from public transport. So we ordered another Uber to take us back to the heart of the historic centre, to the Church of São Vicente. But before we headed inside, it was time for lunch. While exploring the streets near the church, we found the Rendezvous restaurant and enjoyed some delicious pasta and potato dishes. After lunch, we did take a quick look inside the church, but decided not to pay for a full visit. Instead, we made our way next door to the National Pantheon, which is included on the Lisboa card.
This building behind me is the National Pantheon of Portugal. It's the place where famous Portuguese people, whether that's sports people, politicians, artists, are buried or at least remembered. We're going to have a look inside, and this one, we believe, is included on the Lisboa card.
Two of us also decided to climb the stairs and walk around the dome at the top of the building.
The good thing about the steps at the Pantheon here is they're very shallow, so you can take your time, it's not too strenuous, have a little break every so often. Only about 50 steps to go now.
And after walking out onto the rooftop terrace, we discovered that we had saved the best part of the visit till last.
The National Pantheon here in Lisbon is a great building. You walk up to the top, you get great views, and it's a really nice building to look around. But what I like about it is we often talk about who's in the Pantheon of greats, whether that be sport or music or whatever, and I think it's great that a country recognises the people who made a significant contribution to that country. So whether you're a famous explorer from the 15th century like Vasco da Gama, an opponent of the fascist regime, Umberto Delgado, or a great footballer like Eusebio, they're all remembered in here, and I think it's great. You know, every country should have one of these, I think. One useful tip if you're visiting Lisbon, plan your route, plan your places out. Make sure you get up to higher ground using transport, and then you can walk down the hill instead of having to walk up it all the time, because believe me, there are a lot of hills.
Our final stop of the afternoon was to ride the Ascensor de Gloria. We had read that riding a funicular was a must in Lisbon, but it was so busy that for us it wasn't a pleasant experience.
If you want my opinion, if you want to see the trams, it's great standing by the side of the road, see them going up and down the Ascensor Gloria. But it's not worth riding them, being honest. It's cramped up, they're dead slow. I don't see the attraction of riding it. It's great seeing them, but don't bother riding, give it a miss.
We decided to spend our final evening in Lisbon in Belém, one of our favourite areas of the city.
We enjoyed the Belém area so much that we decided to come back on our last night in Lisbon. And it's incredible, it's a Saturday night and it's absolutely dead, there's hardly anyone here. We just had a nice meal at an Italian restaurant there, but there's very few people about. But what a sight this is, the monument to the discoveries is all lit up. And if you look across the water there, the bridge is lit up, and the Cristo Ray in green and white. It's a fabulous backdrop. This is one of my favourite places in Lisbon.
From the Monument of the Discoveries, we walked over to the Belém Tower to get some photos at night. Although we had a good time, I would not recommend exploring Belém in the evening, especially if you are travelling alone, because the area is so deserted even on a Saturday night. Unfortunately, our final day in Lisbon was set to be a washout, so we decided to spend the day at an indoor attraction, the Lisbon Oceanarium. Of course, everyone had the same idea, so by the time we got to the aquarium there was a large queue to buy tickets. Luckily, the queue moved quickly and we were inside in 20 minutes. The aquarium is home to more than 8,000 animals, including sharks, rays, penguins and otters. Although it was busy, there was plenty of room to look at the exhibits in most areas, and we enjoyed the variety of environments to explore.
In 1998, Lisbon hosted the World's Fair, the 1998 Expo, and today we've been in the aquarium, which I think was built around the same time. It's a magnificent building. The aquarium inside is the largest in Europe. There's lots of exhibits including penguins, sharks, loads of different fish and a couple of otters. It only took us about an hour to get round, so the €25 you pay exit feels quite expensive, but there again, if it's the biggest in Europe, then you're not going to get too many more exhibits anywhere else. We actually got a 15% discount with the Lisboa card, so that's something else to bear in mind. Now, the other thing about the 1998 World Expo site, there's a lot of modern building in here. You can take a ride on the cable cars here, but the other thing I wanted to point out, you can see the bridge in the background, the Vasco da Gama bridge, and it was built to help ease congestion. So as a motorist in Portugal, you don't have to go into the city centre and cross the 25th of April suspension bridge. You can come out here and cross the magnificent Vasco da Gama bridge. It's one of those constructions, when you see it up close, it's really impressive.
Taking advantage of a short break in the rain, we decided to explore the Jardim de Agua, the water gardens located next to the aquarium. If you're heading to the aquarium, I would recommend setting aside 15 to 20 minutes to explore this area, which has a few interesting water features, including a pond surrounded by traditional blue tiles and a wall of water. And with that, our trip to Lisbon came to an end. So let's head back to Rob in the Praça do Commercio for the trip roundup.
So I thought I'd do my roundup of Lisbon here in the Praça Commercio. First of all, Lisbon has some amazing sights. The top 2 or 3 are some of the best I've seen in Europe. The Cristo Rei statue overlooking the river, the castle here in the Praça Commercio, the Belém Tower, all superb monuments. I think part of the charm of Lisbon is the fact there's a lot of hills, for example in the old town, the castle area, but that also creates some problems because it's very difficult to navigate around there. Unless you're super fit, walking up those hills all day is really going to kill you. The other thing about the geography of Lisbon is all the sites are really spread out. You've got Belém, which is in the west, you've got the Expo area, which is in the east, you've got the Cristo Rei, which is across the river, across the bridge. So you really got to do some planning to work out what you want to do and how you fit it all together. That's more important in Lisbon than any other city I've visited. Now, we've come in February, so you're probably going to say it's my fault. The weather has been mixed at best. It was absolutely tornado, hurricane type weather when we visited Sintra. It's been a bit mixed here in Lisbon. Generally the weather's been good, but you can get caught in a downpour and it comes out of nowhere. You're walking along in your t-shirt and you're nice and warm, and within 2 minutes everything changes and you're running for cover and looking for a poncho. So you want to think about that if you're going to maybe come in the winter. But overall, Lisbon has some fabulous sights and it's somewhere that you should definitely put on your list. Thanks for watching Rob on Holiday. If you've enjoyed the video, please subscribe. It really helps the channel, and we'll see you next time.